God, that's the best.
Right, yeah, I said
Well, you should like paint your fingers so that paint your fingers in black and white.
All right, Mom. So I got you here early, and yeah, I'll introduce you. So my mother is today's guest, Patrice Gallwey Grant, and I am humbled and super excited for myself to be able to hear this conversation, and for everyone else, because I know it's going to be a lot of fun, really goofy, and hopefully insightful to just for the audience to hear a perspective of the people, one of the people who raised us, these quirky two boys of me and Netic. So, you know, a lot of people always reach out and be like, wow, you guys are interesting dudes. They're different types of dudes. I know your mom is different. I'm like, yeah. She's a witch.
She's a bone collector.
Yeah, just a little different, but it's been wonderful. So, and I appreciate my mom willing to do this and you being willing to take this on. I know that I want everybody to know that this is a big thing for my mom, being on camera. She is not a fan of doing this for any major reason. So thank you, Mom, for being willing to step into this unknown realm and a part of this process with me and for yourself, because I know this is not necessarily your comfort zone. But yeah, we're just gonna, it's really casual, be comfortable, you know, wherever it gets weird.
You're doing fine, just keep
going. If I could pull out some cries, what I really want to say is I really want to bring you to the white table. Just like we're at the white table, so I want to address some things that you didn't do for us in our childhood, or you left us hanging. You gave us some trauma.
Yeah. Whiteboard.
And Mom does have the ability to actually tell me. She's the only guest that I have that can tell me, and I don't want to talk about that. And I'll be like, okay, because she fills that role. But yeah, you know, and just to start off with, I guess we could start with, you know, for the most part, a lot of the audience wants to know, what were your thoughts in regards to how you raised these two boys, and myself, just recognizing we were very different. And, you know, I guess just start from there, what that little quick thought process was.
Well, my prayer was for boys, and I was thrilled to have two boys, like playmates. And I could be rough with them and run around and wrestle. And their dad used to say, I don't like to wrestle. Wrestle with your mom. She likes to wrestle. And it was great. I loved it. And I realized that I didn't want to be that mom when my boys would say, Mom, she's such a girl. So I sucked it up and I picked up mice and frogs and worms and things and said, nope, I'm going to do this with my boys and take them hiking and camping to a point where they were like, Mom, enough already. Every day we know the deal.
There's more around you.
So, it's like I had such a good time with them, playmates.
Yeah, I think
yes.
Really, and that's the experience that we absolutely know that you were willing to be a part in of all of that with us. Why did you? What was it around the girls aspect that you preferred? You desired boys as opposed to desiring little girls?
I remembered me, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to deal with me. So
that
give
makes
me
sense.
The boys, and I can play with them. I was fearful of a little girl wanting ruffles and a canopy bed, and I was like, oh no, how would I have to adjust to that? I don't know. But anyway, it was fine. But yes, just having the boys and recognizing that these two individuals were so very different and so very energetic, both of them, and both of you, just paying attention to the different personalities, and then knowing education was so important, not just from our home, but your schooling experience. So I had to take those things into consideration when selecting schools, nursery schools. Both of you started nursery school very early. And I said, you were playing, and I thought, and I also need to learn things. So I was seeking out good schools for you way back when you were very, very little.
Yeah, I know.
It was important.
It's funny, we went to Montessori schools, and we were Montessori children before that was even a thing. So I always tell people that me and my brother always went to different schools. Yeah. We were always in different schools because we learned very differently. recognizing and having that awareness in regards to who we were as boys and the differences and similarities, and really focusing and honing in on that, was that something that came about when we were born that you came to attention, like, or was it a thought process that you had beforehand?
Oh, I knew, paying attention to children. My family, the family's, child-based, so everything about children was, like really given attention to, and recognizing the differences in personalities and ways of being. So even in terms of schooling, recognizing toys, even the different toys that you guys were both attracted to, and so catering to that when it came to gift giving or toy buying. I'd take you to the stores and let you select. I remember one Christmas we literally did that. We went to the store with you, and you boys picked out all the toys that you wanted. Yeah. And so you knew you were not going to be able to play with them when we got home, but those were the toys you were going to get for Christmas because you picked them out, literally, filling the basket with things. In terms of schooling, recognizing aspects of personality, which school would work for you, and I kept thinking, these kids are going to be in school for so long in their lives. They have to love school. So that was also part of a major focus for me, that you guys enjoyed school, and it wasn't a matter of, I don't want to go to school today. You were always excited to go to school, excited to see your teachers in the stores, because school was an experience that you were both enjoying. So recognizing you needed different types of schools because you were not the same person. So that was also wonderful, just being able to pay attention to that and provide, for that.
I think that like just you saying that was wonderful, being able to pay attention to that.
Yeah,
that's a perspective as well.
I love that.
The ability to be able to pay attention and see all the differences,
and
all the intricacies in regards to who we were. We always talk about how everything is fascinating, even the things that are terrible.
It's so interesting how something came to be, and the schooling and the relationship between the two of you. It was wonderful. You were so very serious. And Ken, you were such a serious little child. You were the one that would say, Mom, stop fooling around. Mom, you fool around too much.
Still.
Mom, you fool around too much. And Ken, was just this natural at so many things that he wasn't serious about it because he could just do it. And so, I remember specifically saying, the two of you are going to be playing Little League. And you wanted to be a pitcher. And I'm like, so then pitch to Kien. It's fine. He's a good catcher. Pitch to Kien. And you would say, I don't want to play with Kien because he fools around too much. And I'd say, Kien. And he was like, I don't want to play with Ryan. He is too serious about it. So it was like, okay, this is great.
And I literally,
so I love that.
I
really loved that you were both acknowledging what it was about each of you. That was like, no, I'm good. You were best friends, but no, I'm good. Certain aspects were drew the line.
How much
great.
of your career, just for context, you were an art therapist, and I guess for audience, probably people have no idea what that is, and I'll allow you to speak on that. But what, with your chosen field of your career, which to me, growing up and really being a part of it, I have fond memories of being at your job and watching you work and watching the conversations and you working with clients and really being a part of it and seeing the dynamic between just social dynamics with you and people. And how did that play a part in regards to your process with your children? And involving us in that and making sure that we were around, or just in general with all that.
Okay. It was important that I was always going to introduce you to whoever I was spending time with, whether, friends, you guys were just a part of my life. Mm-hmm. And so going to work, I loved going to work. As much as I wanted you to love going to school, I loved going to work. I loved interacting with all the individuals, working for the Mental Health Association. People were coming in with all types of psychiatric diagnoses. And it was just a wonderful experience for me to be able to share their lives and having people trust me. And art was the basis for that. So there was, no judgment passed. I don't like art contests, and I don't like things where you put people in a position to feel like, oh my God, he's better than me. Mm-hmm. So I never did that. So I always conducted my groups as open studios, where people would feeling free to just develop and recognizing things they never did. And I wanted you guys to experience that, because I really wasn't doing art at home. I knew I was an artist, but I wasn't doing that at home. Yeah. That's another story, because when I would try to do art at home, I would be so engaged in the art that I would really forget about everything else. So laundry would sit in the washing machine all day, because I would forget that I started that. Or I would say, all right, guys, time to go to bed. And you guys, we didn't have dinner yet. So I was like, okay, I can't do that. I have to do the art at home, at work. So that's why I was like, well, then let me bring them. And they can experience, they can be in an art studio, they can do some stuff. Yeah. And they can see me interact, and they can also meet these individuals that are, challenged in their lives, but still willing to carry on and trust other people and spend time in a different environment as opposed to a home base, because many folks didn't have. And there was always that conversation. And I remember you were very little, and I also worked for a program with the developmentally disabled, and you were a part of that. That was a recreation program, and you would come, and as a baby I would bring you, and you'd sit on the table in your little carrier, and they just loved you. And as a baby, and as you got older, you would go and then play and run around, and you would see some of those individuals oftentimes in the store, and you would say, Mom, there's some of your people that work with you. And it was the cutest thing, because in your mind we were all just sort of like co-workers. We just all worked together, and I loved that. That would be your comment. Another comment was taking you to my job so that you could see me as an artist. I remember Kien was very young, and somebody said something about, what did your mom do? And he said, oh, my mom, she's an artist. And I remember just saying, oh, my child knows I'm an artist. Yeah. We never had that conversation, but he said that. Oh, I was just thrilled that he recognized that. Yeah. And then both of you were very free to do art. So you were artists. And it was yes. And I remember, moving around the house in various rooms, trying things out. And you said, Mom, you're always changing things around. Mom, you're so strong. You always move the rooms around, because you never knew what room you were going to come home to.
Yeah, I'd come home, my bedroom would be totally different.
Yeah, I love that. I was just, I wanted your experience in life to just be different. I was so fearful of my children being regular.
Why?
I didn't want you to be regular. I just felt like...
What?
I wanted you to be thinkers. Yeah. We talked. There was a lot of conversation, always. Mm-hmm. No matter where we went, there was conversation, and I included you guys in on everything. And people would note, God, your kids are so little, and they just jump right into conversations. I'm like, yeah, that's very deliberate. In the household, in the family, the kids are a part of everything.
How's that going for you now? You want to
now? Okay, now, so what did I do? Where did I start?
So you being an artist, how does your own personal process in regards to that part of your world, because you just said it, like it was so important for you in regards to, like, with us, is that what you desired for yourself in regards to just to be fun and be different and be as a personal?
Yes.
I think like you valued it for us because you valued it so much in regards, it spoke to your spirit, so it was so much a part of your process in regards to what you were trying to do or trying to figure out and working through your own stuff, that you gave it to us. And we spoke on this really briefly, that I remember, and it's recently I've had these like thoughts and quote unquote like messages around that for you in raising us, you only cared about us finding what resonated with our spirit.
Yeah.
It was like it didn't matter what it was, and it didn't even matter how long we stayed with it. It was like, find what resonates with your spirit and just do it, go for it, embrace it. And didn't matter how long, didn't matter how well we were at it. It was like, and for me, that's the conversation around like building foundation.
Well, at the end of the day, as you lay in bed and you reflect on your day. If you reflect on your day going, oh, I should have, or you could reflect on your day going, oh, you know what I did today? So each day is just this,
like enriching, like fulfillment,
Yeah, and wondering. And I would just, I feel bad for folks. We've spoke about, how you can just Google something immediately and instant gratification to find the answer, as opposed to wondering, allowing yourself to wonder about something. Well, I wonder if this, I wonder if that. If you're not able to do that, that's a whole segment of time that's just like, what? Yeah. Come on, give yourself that opportunity to use your imagination. And
there really is so much in the wonder of something, whether you find the answer or not. It's not even about the answer.
Just wondering, because it's just fun to wonder about things, because then it leads to something else. It's like looking through a dictionary or an encyclopedia, as opposed to looking up a specific definition on Google. If you go through a dictionary, there are so many other words you're going to come to first that are going to catch your eye. You're going to go, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh. Eventually, you'll get to yours, but all the other information that you gather, and it could be trivial stuff. But
well, it's interesting because that literally is a process that, because of technology, it's like we're cutting out.
Yes, absolutely.
"Quote unquote" natural processes. Things that we've seen as being natural parts of the of the line, like line of thought. You have a thought, you think about it, you take some more time to think about it, like, oh, you have different thoughts in your mind of what it possibly may be, but now you can just have the thought, type in what your thought is, and you'll get an answer.
It's there, it's
so
very limiting.
I wonder what the development is in that space of the neurons that are firing in you, walking through and basically being your own Google and just kind of like throwing stuff around and possibilities.
Because something else comes to mind perhaps, and then you go, wait a minute, you know what, that's really interesting, it takes you off course, but that course that you're now on perhaps is going to be the course. So I just felt like that was, and children are just so curious, so to see the importance of that and nurture that within the kids, and that you were like,
Do you, with the kids, and since our family is such a kid family, and always been from Deer and our grandmother and your grandmother Zenobia, and just in general, all the aunts, cousins, families, do you think that we value children so much because, like, I know that we talk about they're like the essence of joy, oh my goodness, it's like, but how much of it is like a reminder of like source, a reminder of like the fascinating, the joy of, like, you know what I mean? The joy of the
what it is. I just think that, we see that the wonder in your eyes, and you're like, you're these little figures, or you're organic at this point. You're not, you're not
haven't
made.
been, quote
you're
unquote,
not made yet.
So
right now you're like, this plant that's just coming into being, that's like, oh my God, and the beauty of new green, spring green. It's almost transparent. You can see when everything is just new green. The buds are just opening up, and then at some point they're rich and they're dark green. But the newness of it, it's like, oh my goodness, that's children and their innocence, and they're honest and recognizing they just got here and they're already figuring things out. I just watch, your girls, and when they're so expressive, and I said that, I think I say this every day, watching how when they're speaking and just their hand movements. And Steele said yesterday, and we just won't even notice it. It's like, she just got here and she's already doing these things. And Steele, when she's figuring something out, and she goes, wait a minute,
facial expression,
mouth twists up. I'm like, what do you know to do that? It's just delicious.
No, it is. They are magic, and I think it's.
I mean, when your brother said yesterday, I had to come see you guys, and because if I thought about how much I missed you, I would start crying. He said, but since I'm here, I'm not going to start crying because I'm here with you right now.
Yeah.
But if I think about too long how much I'm missing you, I start crying.
Yeah, well, so the same thing. If I start thinking about too many memories or too many good things, I'm like, okay. Okay. Yes. Watching our grandmother, my grandmother, and even your grandmother, and the conversations that it's funny, as serious as I am,
yes,
your mother was serious as well, dear. And so I feel like
yes,
generations jump.
Yes. Oh,
like
yes,
the generations
absolutely.
jump. And you were fortunate
Yes.
because you had a son that didn't jump generation. But I have this thing where it's like the generations jump in regards to like priorities to some degree.
Absolutely.
So I know this is why Steele and you are like one, one in itself, because your spirits are absolutely vibrating to the same. So like, what was that around in regards to the foundation that Dear gave you? And from an indigenous aspect, like, because it's funny, I think that the conversations we were having were really around family, and were really around like building self and love. We talk about Dear in regards to of like, it's funny, we talk of like the household being like an open door for family members and loved ones, and how almost everyone in the family lived at Dear's house, at my grandmother's house at some point in time. And
my grandmother's house.
Oh, yeah, and your grandmother's house as well,
yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's, people have always felt, as soon as they step into our family, they're like, yo, your family's dope. Like, you're just seeing it. Yes. And, we've never had that relationship as that parent where it's like, oh, I don't want to be around my mom. I never felt uncomfortable where it was like,
you gotta go home
I'm
for the
embarrassed.
holidays.
Exactly, I'm embarrassed by my mom, or like, oh, there's this, there's that. And I think that all my friends and all of Ken's friends and who came about, and just people that experienced it, it felt, number one, like a safe space. You weren't going to be judged. And then in you not being judged, you were going to be judged, but it was from a space of love, and it was very much like we have, cracking but facking. We have no problem cracking jokes on anyone. And say there'll be some truth with it. There's an accountability. It was almost like a beacon of love, like a foundational place where people, like a home, like a home. Yeah, it just was. It felt like a safe place where people could just go like this.
I often envisioned, just the essence of our home, and I remember with my grandmother feeling like this is one of those teepees where there's always a fire burning.
Yeah.
And you can just come in and you'll be warm, and there'll always be something to eat. And what's interesting is that when I say always be something to eat, it wasn't necessarily food, because my mother, if somebody was playing with us, we wouldn't have dinner until they left. My mother wasn't that mother that said, oh, no, we'll make room, we'll share the food with you. We really kind of didn't do that. we lived on a strict budget.
Yeah.
So there were 4 of us, so there might have been, like 5 lamb chops. My father was going to get 2, and the rest of us was going to get, and that was it. And so,
I wish I could do that for the girls. With all the
so I didn't do that. So I don't remember, being able to just say, oh, no, stay. It's like, no, I probably made dinner for just us.
Yeah.
And, I probably made extra because you guys ate so much.
Yeah.
But that was it. It wasn't in case somebody else stopped by. But I just felt like the home base was this teepee that was always warm, that you were going to come into, and there's always be a fire, and there'd always be a welcome. You were always going to be acknowledged. Yeah. You weren't just going to be there and nobody knew that you were there. You were going to be acknowledged, and there'd be, a little conversation with you. And I remember saying to you boys, when you would visit people, pay attention. You would get these new friends. I would say, pay attention to what goes on in their home. And if you're there during a mealtime, pay attention to the conversation that's going on at the table. Are they laughing together at something? Are they laughing about something? Are they laughing at someone? Are they laughing with someone? That's important. You will get a sense of who these people are based on what takes place within the unit. And I thought that was important to point that out to you, so that you could then see how we were and how other people interacted in their homes. I was like, no, that's really important. And you would say, no, nobody was around, or no, there was some conversation, but not much. Or
no, we definitely were. I absolutely focal point. I remember often you saying around paying attention. Pay attention. Yeah. Pay attention to conversations, the people, where you are. And I think that process in general is really interesting, because in paying attention, you start to learn about other people in relation to yourself. You know, you have a sense of what's going on in your own space. And, you know, like most kids and most people, we believe what is, or, you know, the whole grass is green on the other side. And there's an awareness that comes along with that, which I think helps in regards to everything, you know. Everything is just a paying attention. Like, why paying attention is so important, because from survival mode. And, you know, even in the notion of me and Kien, we paid attention very differently, you know. So there was you recognize that there was a different process for us in regards to we paying attention. You know, I paid attention like this, which of course is limiting in some aspects, because you recognize that it's laser focused in what it's about, and you know, but there were I would miss other things. Kien might be like this. And it's like, oh, but you're not really.
Right. So, I mean, that was the balance, because we knew we could go to you for specifics. Even as a child, we would say, okay, Ryan, what was the so-and-so, because I knew you were paying attention to that. And at the same time, I could say, Kien, what was going on? And he could tell me about that. And there were instances with other children where people had come to me around both of you at different points saying, you know what, Kien would be paying attention to the dynamics of something, and Kien would be that individual that would go and say, wait, that's not fair, because he did so-and-so. And other parents would hear that and say, wow, he stepped in and he kind of handled the situation. And you were that one that somebody would come and say to me, you know, he went right over, the child fell, he went right over to that individual he saw. And so you would like the one-on-one, and Kien would, you know, kind of take in the dynamics of the group and step up to that. But again, it was the pay attention. And I remember you were very little, and hearing you say, I am paying attention, Mom, I am paying attention. And like could barely say the words, pronounce the words, but you knew that was the expectation. And I would say it to you, you know, it didn't matter what age you were, I could hand that to you and you understood that. Or you would say, I wasn't paying attention. You know, each of you, if you did something, you would say, I wasn't paying attention. So I'm
that
like,
acknowledgement
that's what would happen. And so now you know what, you know, how did that happen? I wasn't paying attention. And you were, you know, owning up to it. So just, you know, bringing those things to your attention. And your dad was very, very clear on that as well. So, you know, he was very child-oriented and based on, you know, your upbringing and the importance of. So he was very much a part of those. And I actually want to touch on that. It's funny you brought him up, and speak to that process is interesting, because whenever people ask me, and they know that I played professional football, and I end up telling them about my dad, and they're like, oh, you ever strong? I'm like, oh, my dad is my guy. And I said, literally, so much of who I am from a physical aspect, a mental aspect, is my father. Like my mental toughness, my, you know, and they're like, really? You know, people always go, because of how much you're in, they see you so much, you're very much involved in my day-to-day. And I tell them, like, oh, no, my dad was the original personal trainer, the original everything. And very serious about
the two of you had common ground on many different areas, but also your strengths and focal points of who we were as individuals were very different. So and I love that you allowed each other. It's like you saw what the strengths were and what you were providing for each other, and you allowed each other to very much, you know, you are the least competitive person in the world.
That's right.
And there's been moments I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all.
You score, and now they score.
You want everyone to win. That doesn't work for any aspect of my world. But you saw in my dad what he was giving us intrinsically. It's like you saw what he was giving us foundationally.
Oh yeah, there was no harm being done.
So you
to
saw,
this.
and even in the moments where it was like it seemed a little hard, seemed a little overboard, like really you were very, very supportive in what he was doing. Like almost like you let him, like, nope, that's his level of expertise. So I'm going to allow him to do that, and I see how it's benefiting these two young men.
I mean, he could articulate why he was doing those things and the mindset behind doing those things. So it was like, oh, you know, I mean, we're about the kids. And that was very clear. So, you know, whatever it wasn't my way, or it wouldn't be what I would do. But it was like, well, I'm not doing that. Do
you, in you was voicing that, his ability to articulate it, Did that give you a sense of like comfort around?
Oh
like
yeah,
his own understanding. His own understanding as to why.
No, when you guys were with your dad, there was a very sense of security.
Yeah.
Oh, they're with their dad. Oh no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or whatever dad's you're doing. I mean, your dad was doing wonderful things with you.
Yeah.
I was at work, and your dad was taking you on picnics and taking you to parks, and he wouldn't even tell me about. He's like, no, that's my park.
Yeah.
That's the park that I take them to. I'm not going to show you that because I know you'll go there too, and you'll do good things with them too. No, this is a special park that I take them to. And your bikes,
awesome.
He'd putting seats on the bicycle so he could ride around with you. And I remember when we lived in the city with Kian, your dad, I would roll around with this empty stroller because your dad's concern was, no, there's too much dirt being kicked up on New York City streets.
So he was just
I don't want the baby that close to the dirt.
Yeah.
So I would take the stroller out, and then he would carry the baby because he thought, no, there's too much dirt down there. And I'm like, I get that. That makes perfect sense.
Which is so interesting because it's really interesting that my father was raised in the South Bronx, and he was so holistic in many ways of that he wanted didn't want to be a part of that.
Oh yeah.
And you, being raised upstate, you were so much like, oh no, I want 14th Street. I want to be in the city. I want that. I want this vibe. I want this energy. And I think that it's great that you had this dichotomy, like this balance in almost like desiring each other, desiring the other end of what each other.
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
I mean, during those years, it was perfect. It really was, and I was interested in traveling, and I knew I wanted my kids to just see as much as possible. And your dad really wasn't that interested. Yeah. And so sometimes I'd say, okay, so we're gonna go, and you want to come here? It's like, no, actually, when you go, it's like a break for me. So I was like, okay, I don't really want a break, so I want to take the kids. Yeah. So my break was like going to work. So it's like, no, I want to share everything that I experienced. I want to share with my kids. And I think we went away one time without you, and the entire time we were away, all we kept saying was, oh my God, the kids would have loved this. Oh, the boys would have just loved this so much. And that was then the decision, okay, never go anywhere without them again. Because everything that we're doing, we're going, oh my God, that's so much fun. And it was at the Newport Jazz Festival, and everything about the festival, we just thought, these kids would have loved this. And so that was it. And then your father was like, no, I'm good. And so I would just take you around. So it was important for me to let you see that your world is huge. And I wanted you to be comfortable no matter where you went. I wanted you to see, this is where people live, and they live just like us. And oftentimes, if I got turned around on the highway, you would say, Mama, we lost? And I'd say, no, we're not lost. We know where we live, and we're in America, and everybody speaks English, so we're good. We know we're not lost. Yeah. If it doesn't work out, we'll just go back home. Yeah. But I wanted you to see that you could go anywhere and be comfortable going anywhere. And we reached a point where you would say, Mom, can you come with me, or can you do this for me? And I was like, no, I'll watch you. You can do this on your own. And you felt comfortable then stepping up to people and asking questions and being curious about things. Yeah. And I wanted that. I thought that was important. And I couldn't afford at that time to fly anywhere, so we would. Yeah,
people used to ask, you flew, you ready? And I'm like, oh no, we drove everywhere.
No,
we took
everywhere.
Road trips.
It's like
everywhere.
I had enough for gas and hotel stay, but that's what we were going to do. And that was great.
I want to at some point touch on, because I do, I remember all the trips that we took, and
going to interesting people's homes.
Yeah, and that's it. You were very big on, you introduced us to a lot of phenomenal people. Like the people that I have as reference points, Wally, and Ellie, Warren, Wayne, Beth. Like there's just there's an endless amount of people.
And it's interesting because I don't feel like I'm that outgoing person that makes a lot of friends.
Yeah, I don't know necessarily either, but for somehow these individuals. Yeah.
I love these individuals, and they were all different, and they were all.
Why was that important to your world and for us to experience that?
Just talking to somebody who had a different life, different experience, different upbringing, different culture. They would give me things, and again, it fed my sense of wonder. I'm like, oh, I didn't know. Wow. Oh, just, speaking to my friends who had come from Mexico, and just hearing them say that our history books were so different from their history books. I loved that. Yeah. It was just this awakening to the fact that, Really, whoever is telling the story, they're telling the story from their perspective and what they know.
Yeah.
Their cultural background and upbringing. And so recognizing that. And then individuals who studied things and went to schools for other things that I never knew. Wally being a physicist. I'm like, what? And you talk to him, and he had that sense of wonder. Whenever you spoke to Wally, Wally would be saying,
he was Jewish.
Pat, could you imagine?
He was a Jewish physicist that studied Tai Chi.
Oh my God, he was just, oh my goodness, he was just a Tai Chi master at this point because he'd been doing it for years and was just this interesting individual who, when he was excited about something, it would almost go to a whisper. Pat, could you imagine? Oh my goodness, wow. Wally, I just love you. And he was the parent of one of Kian's very best friends.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling like, I really don't care about the parents. I don't want to meet the parents. I don't want to do this.
Normally, yes, the case, yeah.
Oh my goodness! And some of the parents that that I met were just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah,
and then meeting people and wanting my children to meet these people because I knew
all different from fun to serious to
and knowing people who would say, "I have a friend that I know you need to meet."
Yeah,
and that's how I met Cookie.
Oh, man.
Dr. Cookie, because Bill was like, you've got to meet this friend. I'm going to bring her to your house because I want you to meet her. You're going to love her. And I so did immediately, this wonderful woman. And then she moved out of the area and she said, I'm moving to Maryland. I'm like, Maryland? I don't know anything about Maryland. All right. And she said, no. You have to come to where I'm moving. You're going to love this. And she moved to the beach, to Highland Beach in Annapolis. What? It's like, oh my God. And we damn near lived there every summer, every weekend, every other weekend.
Was a whole
we were
different.
There.
It'd be living
on the beach.
Yeah, being down there in the beach. And it's funny, I told you not too long ago, I had like a smell that reminded me of that time and being in Maryland.
In this private community of color.
In Annapolis, yeah.
And you kids could
a private,
just run.
public community.
Oh my goodness.
Like a town. It was a neighborhood where,
Oof.
it was like everybody, we all looked. Like, you know what I mean?
For me, it was like, another black hippie lady.
Yeah.
I'm loving this. Oh my goodness. She was like, oh, we're absolutely sisters. Absolutely. This is the best. I was like, wow.
Yeah, there were kids galore running around. Yeah. Of course, I was,
no shoes on.
In and out of houses, running to the beach. Oh. It was like one of those, it's funny that not too many people, especially in today's climate, to experience that notion of being it was in Annapolis and really in the neighborhood was just people could everybody felt safe. They felt trusted that, where were the kids? Oh, they're running back and forth. They're going, oh, okay, cool. It was, so the adults had a chance to be able to laugh and feel safe and everything like that. And they're with their friends. And then the kids got a chance to kind of grow up and, do their own thing and learn and stuff like that. And, I learned about crabs, like all types of stuff. I learned about crabs from the stream, from the, from being in the back from the bay and stuff. So
kayaking.
It was just a very, very different experience that you gave us with, and just countless. From Colorado to Florida to North Carolina.
That was the other thing. Whenever I had friends that were moving, people would go, "Oh, you're moving? Oh, let's be friends." And I'm like, "No, you're moving? Where are you moving?" Okay, I'd like to. They were like, "Come visit," and I'm like, "Don't tell me that because if you tell me that, we're coming."
Yeah.
And my kids and I are going to come to you. And I think I mentioned to you recently when we went to Colorado. My friend's oldest daughter was going to move. She said, okay, Dad, you have friends coming from New York? Like, I'm going to leave and take my kids, and we'll come back when they leave. And he was like, no. I want you to be here because I want you to meet this family. You're going to love this family. And she was like, what do you mean? He said, the woman's coming with her mother and, her 2 little kids. Why should I? He was like, no, you need to meet them. And his daughter stayed at the house, and she absolutely adored you guys. You were playing, and you loved her she had little children. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful week that we spent there in Colorado in the hills. And she just was so grateful that her dad insisted that she stay and spend time with us. Because, again, we were that family. And then she was like, oh, they are really,
I think
they're different. I like them.
I'd like for you to just give your perspective on the importance of children and people in general finding diversity in their friends, finding diversity in thought, and because you did. You brought us around really interesting people that were into different things. And was that because you wanted us to potentially, did you in the back of your mind immediately think like, oh, maybe this might spark? You know what I mean? Was it like
whoever, what you're introduced to gives you food for thought.
Yeah.
And I knew that, what am I introducing you to? I'm introducing you to the field of psychiatry, because everybody in our family basically was dealing with psychiatry on various levels.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me introduce them to some other people.
Else.
That was always necessary. Yeah. But I also felt like talking to other people would feed your sense of wonder, because it would also expand your thinking.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. The dynamics, group dynamics is so real. And you can be so, I call it, Jedi mind tricks. You can just be pulled into something and so easily feeling like this is it. And it's like, oh my God, there's so much more. And there are so many variations of the one thing. I mean, that's what the Matrix is. It's like, oh, you think this is reality? Well, guess what? They think that this is reality.
Yeah.
And they think that this is reality. So if I expose you to all of it, then you're aware of the fact that, wow, reality is. And in my group therapy sessions, I would say that inevitably, I would always tell my group that we'd sit around a big table, whether it was a round table or a rectangle table or a square table. I want each of you to describe exactly what you see in front of you. And inevitably, if somebody says, oh, I see a window, and somebody would go, window? I don't see a window. I see a clock. A clock? There's no clock in here. What, are you kidding me? And I'm like, this is perspective based on wherever you're sitting, wherever you came from. You've been handed things. One of the worst expressions is, well, that's the way we've always done it. So what? Make a change. I see now on Instagram and Facebook and all these things, all these quotes that people are posting. And I'm like, God, I've been saying those things for such a long time. Wow. And I was just saying them. Now it's like, people are posting them. They're on billboards.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're profound.
It's like, oh my goodness, really? Like I'm waiting to see a billboard that says mom up, because that's my line. Never mind this man up. It's mom up, because moms show up regardless. Moms are there. Even if they can't, they're still there. This is about mom up.
Just off of the basis of how you got here.
I didn't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. It hurts. I don't want to do it. Guess what? So what? You're going to mom up and have this baby.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And so I felt like, no, you know what? I've got to just expose my kids to as much so that it makes it difficult, because it's hard to take a stance on something, because you're often able to see from another perspective how, no, I get where they're coming from. I'm kind of understanding that. So life is not easy. That's why I think part of the wonder and find your joy, because there's going to be a lot of struggle. The more you know,
that's a really good. I think that's a really good point.
So we laugh hard. And no matter how serious our family conversations are, you can depend on somebody cracking that joke that steers us off for a hot minute. It's like, a little reprieve from that. And we do it on the regular, and it's expected. We almost look to somebody. It's like, who's waiting? Come on, Rick, you're taking too long. Come on.
Absolutely. I think that's... Life is hard, and life is a lot. It's a lot, there's a lot coming, and there's so much that we don't have control over, and there's so much that just life happens.
I mean, our sense of humor is hard.
Yeah.
We have a hard sense of humor because we're hard about everything.
We're thinking hard. We're laughing hard.
Like nonstop.
We cry hard. You know what I mean? It's we experience like everything. We love hard.
It's serious.
People always say that once you're in our family, it's like, oh, you're not leaving. There's no way. There's no out of here. And I know sometimes people. It can be exhausting. The word exhausting, it comes up a lot in regards.
Oh yeah,
we can definitely be exhausting.
I've always heard people say, and I will always admit, I know I'm exhausting to you. I know that I am. I am exhausting.
I look at the people in my life, my loved ones, friends, and family, and I do. I appreciate. One of the aspects that I appreciate is that I know that they choose to be in my life, because I know it's not easy.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm leery when people want to be a part of.
Initially,
wait, calm down, because you don't really know
No, and I get that. The initial aspect.
What you're loving is what you are going to end up talking about and posting and dogging.
But that's what I'm saying. The people who have taken a while, like, my friends from college or like everyone, the people who've been around for a while, I'm like, oh yeah, they're true because it hasn't been easy. Yeah. I know it's been like, oh God, Ryan, man, the whole family, I can't get away from you.
I have friends that say, oh my God, why are you asking me that? You're the only one that would go there, and I'm like, yeah, okay, so what's the big deal? Nobody else went here. Well then, all right.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's interesting because with the girls, with Steele and Sage, I think about. If I'm giving them enough of a diverse, experience, in the fact that I'm giving them something different and I'm giving them more, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm giving them diverse.
Yes, yeah, I get that.
And so I think about that sometimes. And
well, I think about your tribe of friends that come and go, that love the girls, that the girls know, even the FaceTiming. It's like, I love that. I love that they love Hugo and Hannah and sing. Yeah. I'm loving that, and Tim and just like when you're talking to your friends, your girls are like, hi,
GB, your Uncle friends, Tell, all the like
your friends are their friends.
Yeah,
and they're
absolutely.
so excited to see them. And when your friends come in the house, there's a level of enthusiasm that the girls receive from them.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, this is good. This is good. It's not as much or it's not as often as I kind of want it to be. Yeah. But it is, and it's rich.
Well, it's funny. I think that's in the notion of the as often aspect as me as well. And I think that's a host of things.
I mean, there was that little moment when it was interesting because I didn't know who was who. And to hear, Steele talk about, her friend Blue.
Oh,
and she would be on the phone. Who are you talking to? She's like, I'm talking to my friend. I'm talking to Justin. And then I'm talking to Blue. And I'm like, who's Blue? That's my friend. And then at some point,
to hear that,
she said, no, what she said was, I'm talking to Justice, and she said something about, we're hearing a song. And she said, oh, yeah, that's Blue's mom. And I'm like, I love that. Beyonce doesn't even have a name. She's Blue's mom. And it's just like, it is okay. She's just, this is her circle, and this is who she travels with. And she's just so, the diversity that you are handing her is just rich. And I love that. Like I said, I wish it was a little bit more. I wish that she could come back to New York more. Giving up the house.
She's hinting little things that,
Giving up the house is like killing me. Oh my gosh. And because that was, that's
I'm working on a host of things. We'll make sure of it.
But no, I think that what you're offering the kids is wonderful. And between you and Portia and exposing and taking around and they're nonchalant.
They don't, it's not like, they don't really.
Yeah, but they're enthused about it. They're enthused about it all.
They do, for instance, like swimming. Their expectation to swim is there. They expect to be able to swim.
Yes.
But they are really enthusiastic about them being able to swim. They get excited about swimming. It's finding that balance where, it's to the point that even with the expectation, there's still the enthusiasm where they don't just get like, well, that's nothing. Where they take it for granted having something. And that's a dynamic that it's challenging, and you know what I mean, when you are providing a lot for your children, and when you have more resources, that that's the quote unquote the spoiled aspect of I
love the fact that we're exposing that the family has so many artists, and that for them to I can't wait for them to see Bridget doing her dancing, and I don't know how often you play on Sharon's music for her to hear that Bubba is a singer, and this is Uncle Rick playing.
Because in their reference, really Journey's the singing start. It's almost like the singing started with Journey.
Yeah, but I want them to see on Sharon on Soul Train on the stage performing, and American Bandstand. I want them to see that. I want them to see Uncle Rick doing his thing and hearing a song going, oh, Uncle Rick was playing that, for them to, again, what you expose your kids to. And so I want them to really have a sense that this is what the people that we know, this is our circle, this is our tribe, this is what we do. We're all artists. And it was very cute when Steele said to me the other day, Jem, I know you're an artist, but when are you going to do some art? And I'm like, that's very interesting. She doesn't remember coming to my studio to see things that I've done, and she doesn't see me do, because I'm not that artist that sits down and draws or paints. But I decided, and I think I verbalized to a friend that in this move, I think I am going to do something, even if they're in the yard constructing with, whatever. I brought seaweed home the other day, and it's hanging up in my bathroom to dry. And
you did bring it?
And Sage is like, Gemma, what is that? And I said, oh, that's the seaweed. And she was like, from the beach? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, we're not supposed to bring it from the beach. It's supposed to stay on the beach. And I said, well, Sage, I want to try to do something with it. So I said, once it was washed up, it was already a wrap. It's not like I cut it off of something. So I said, no, I'll see what I can do with it. And I was like, who knows? Maybe I'll make curtains out of it. I don't know.
In general, no, I love
just, but no, Sage, I wanted to do that. And when you guys, take walks and collect things and all of those things, I want them to know that art is major in life. And whatever realm it is, it's major.
Why does it feel?
Art just art feeds your spirit. Art is what we breathe. Art is who we are as our tribe. Somebody else's medicine, or somebody else's, the law and politics, but ours is art. And it's we're moved by it. That's who we are. I think,
I appreciate that. What's your medicine?
Ours is art.
Okay, so oh man, that's awesome. All right, so in this, now we're going to go to the other side of that, because I think the other side of this process, because I've witnessed so much of how you and Dad's, your presence and involvement and everything you did for us, of course, just by time and resources, it took away from the personal.
Yeah. Personal in terms of the relationship
and the personal in terms of like your own, what do you want, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what did that, like, whether any aspirations or any
the other thing, for me, providing and doing and experiencing with my children was like so major that I don't, and I know
you don't even look at it like
some people have to step away from their children and create their own and do their own. I never felt that.
Cool. Okay.
I never felt that. I felt like whatever I was doing, you were so much,
because it was the number one, because it was so much of what
you were part of.
Was it always a desire? Did you always see it as that? Like,
I remember telling my mother, I was probably about 16, and she said something about, when you get married and have your children. I was like, Mom, I remember, and she commented on me saying this at one point. Mom, I don't know about the marriage piece. I can't really bank on that. I don't want you to get hooked into that. There will be children.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the marriage thing, because I was never that person. I just didn't have that sense that I needed to be with somebody and get married. That wasn't part of my thoughts. But children were definite.
Yeah.
So I had you. And that was it.
That was like
the relationship piece was, at some point I realized, you know what? This really is about the kids. This is why I met this man. This is why I got together with this man. It's about the kids.
Yeah.
And so, whatever else is whatever. Do your thing. I'm about the kids, and I got this. And he was about kids, so I recognized that.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, yeah. You hook up with somebody or you see somebody, you meet somebody, you date somebody, and then you realize, they're like, nah, your kids are okay. It's like, oh really?
Yeah, okay. Right away, you just know.
Okay, there won't be a second date here.
What aspects of yourself in general do you look at your children and your grandchildren, and they make you, if anything, and I've heard you say this before, where the aspects where you didn't feel quote unquote strong enough or have enough confidence in your own world that you see in our world, and you see us like, oh, you know what I mean? Are there any aspects of us that you are?
Well, finances. I'm so glad you guys, you kind of handle that, because, I'm just like, whatever. I can live day to day and I'm okay. And if I don't have, I don't have. If I have, I have. I don't think along those lines.
Yeah, for as much as you did give us, I will say there are certain ones. It's like I got the college and I was like, wait, what?
You're right.
Mom, did you? Yeah, well, I didn't really. It wasn't a focal point.
Yeah. I mean, to this day,
Yeah.
just even in terms of computers, what?
That was very different.
The technology. I'm like, nah, I'm okay with that too. Not knowing that. No, I felt like if I give you,
there's nothing like, because even like confidence wise,
if
like
I
even
give
the
you
notion
a sense of yourself,
yes,
and your own spirit, and you have fed that spirit, and that spirit can soar and go wherever, whatever it is. Once you find what you find what you love, and that's gonna.
Yeah.
The money will come. Do what you love and don't worry about the money because it's going to happen. I remember saying, if you love something, you're going to work hard at it, which means you'll put the extra hours in because you love it so much, and that's going to be recognized and it'll pay off because you're doing something that you love. You don't ever want to. I remember working a coworker saying, "Oh, I can't wait for the weekend," and I'm like, "I hear you say that every week. Every Monday, you can't wait for the weekend. So you want these 5 days to just fly by until you can get those 2 days in, and then the 5 days fly by." I said, "Really?" Every day is a wonderful day.
Yeah,
and you're
absolutely.
wanting this week to go by fast because you can't wait for the weekend. Oh, my goodness. But if you love what you're doing, every day is meaningful.
Yeah.
And no matter what you're doing, you're secure in yourself. No matter where you go, you'll be curious about it. And if it strikes your interest, you'll delve in. So you'll find out about it. So I never felt like, because I didn't introduce them to this, they won't. I'm secure enough to know what I did provide you with gives you a sense of security to do your thing.
And that seeing that and then seeing it actualized in us gave you another sense of security. All it did was just continue to reinforce your security, your personal security with us.
The football piece, people would say, "Aren't you nervous when he plays?" And I remember getting a book.
I'm on one.
And you were going from high school, you were going to Notre Dame, and I got a book. And my car was being serviced, and I had this football book, and I'm reading this book, and somebody said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "My son plays football, and he's getting me to take it to another level, so I have to be a little bit more knowledgeable." I said, "I could fake it when he was in high school, but now I've got to really kind of understand more of this game." Yeah. So I'm reading. They were like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he's going to Notre Dame." And I feel like, okay, I can't even sit in the stands. If somebody says something, I can't say, "Huh?" I got to be able to cheer it on. So I was reading that book, and then it's like, oh, now he's going into the pros. Oh, man. So then people were like, "Well, are you nervous about him going?" And I'm like, okay, listen, no.
Yeah.
I am not nervous. This young man is so serious about what he does that he knows, I'm trusting, that he knows what he has to do to be prepared to do this. And he does not need to give any time to, my mom is... No, I cannot come into that psyche at all. He's got to focus on what he's going to do. So am I nervous? No. I know he's going to handle whatever he needs to do. He's serious to play this game. So no, I'm not nervous at all about him because I know he's handling this.
Yeah, and it's funny. They were very clear. And I think that, there was a trust. That's part of it, like how you raise us. There was like an acknowledgement and trust, like, no. Handle your business, and I'm gonna trust that you're handling your business, and then we're gonna move accordingly.
And I knew that you were that serious person that you were going to. I remember, I think, because I'm feeling like we're at Clarkstown in the stands, so it might have been and Clarkstown North. So it might have been when you were in. No, you weren't playing there. No, it must have been when you played for Clarkstown.
Okay. Well,
anyway, I'm just saying in the stands, but I remember having the conversation with you saying, when you're tackled and it looks like, oh my goodness, they're running out to the field to see if you're okay. You just put your hand up.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. And I will know you're okay. And I'm like, okay, so
there was
I
a clear
put that
baseline.
On you.
You just gave me a clear.
Let me know, because otherwise I'm like, Vincent, get down there.
Yeah.
Right away, I'm telling your father,
exactly.
If he's sitting in the stands, if he's not already on the field just watching the game, if he's in the stands, the minute you go down, I'm hitting him saying, get down there.
No, absolutely.
So once I see your hand up, I'm like, no, Ryan's fine. He's good. He's good.
I
would never
literally,
do that.
As much, and I was just going to say that it was actually really, there was definitely an acknowledgement and there was a trust. And it's like, no, I'm in this space. And you said the one thing that hey, if you get hurt, I just always knew, put your hand up.
Yeah.
That's like some reinforcement to let me know I'm good, Ma.
Yeah.
I'm cool, whatever. So it's like, don't let me get it. Everybody has their threshold. It's like, yeah, I'm not worrying, but
yeah.
So it was like, no, just to reinforce that, put your hand up, and that was something that
And that was it. And then it was just, that young years. And then once it, became more serious, it was like, oh, please,
I had so many other things going on in my mind.
Listen, the fact that at Notre Dame, when you started that piece about breaking the line to come to acknowledge me when you were walking from the chapel to the stadium, and nobody else was doing that. And I remember people going, what's he doing? He's stepping out of the line? Oh my God, it's like he does this every week. It's his mother. When his mother's here, this is what he does.
Yeah.
And I remember the other mothers
about
going,
that for a second.
I wish my son would do I was like, I didn't ask him to. I said, he just sees me and he comes right over. So we would try to get there.
Yeah, so I didn't have to. Yeah.
So you would see me before the game or know that we were there. You knew we were there, but, because we're always late to everything. But, we tried to get to that space where when you walk from the chapel, you would see us and then keep it moving. And that was lovely and made me feel special. And then it was like, okay, he is no longer going to think about me until at the end of the game, he'll find me.
We'll touch on that at some point in regards to my level of focus.
It's like,
because I was able to, I had that window. I was like, okay, give it. I always wanted to give it.
And it was always like same face. It wasn't like you broke to say, hey guys. No. You just came over, gave me a hug, gave me a kiss, got right back in that line. It was the same serious face that, I'm playing ball today, which was great, But
in regards to the, my own process with focusing, and I remember that clear conversation you had with me when you were diagnosed with cancer, and I was the last person that found out, and you told me we were actually driving on Middletown Road, and you told me, and I got upset, and you said, this is why I didn't tell you. And I said, well, I worry about you, Mom. And you stopped and you said, whoa. I don't need you worrying about me. That's not what I need right now. What I'm going through, yes, it's heavy, it's a lot, and I need to focus my energy on healing. I need to focus my energy on this recovery process, on everything that's going on. And worrying about me doesn't help the situation at all. If anything, it just adds more pressure and more of a burden on that. And you explaining that to me was so clear and made so much sense. And you said, worrying doesn't help anything.
Right.
You want to be concerned, you want to be proactively concerned, that's fine. But worrying, the sense of worrying in general, helps nothing. It doesn't help yourself.
Right.
It doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help me. And you saying that, literally, it just framed
worry
to me, that it allowed me to just kind of let the word just kind of just literally just go into the breeze and disappear. And from that point, I've rarely worried about anything.
Yeah.
Because it had a very different connection to what the word meant. And it's like, that word doesn't serve any use in my world.
There are certain words that to me become entities.
Yeah.
And in the mix, they do have an effect. Because that word, you're ingesting it, and that word it manifests into part of your biology.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't serve a purpose, then get it out of the way, because it's something else then that your cells have to then attack to get rid of. Because then but I need those cells to focus on this and not that.
Yeah.
So why am I going to ingest that? It's like entertaining a notion that then carries over. I'm like, no, I can't. And I recently heard something, and I don't remember if it was Alice Walker. I don't know who it was that stated, worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's so true. You could just sit there and worry about something. You just have to do.
Awesome.
But you're not going anywhere. It just keeps you locked into a space. And I'm like, yeah, right. Oh my goodness, I love this. Yeah, and it reminded me of one of my art ideas and having rocking chairs and stories and worry. I would put worry in a rocking chair and just fill everything that you could worry about. Just put in that rocking chair.
Dope. Yeah, and let it just.
Yeah, that was one of my performance pieces.
Yeah, no, I remember.
I was gonna, just do that, and I was like, worry deserves its own rocking chair, and you can just put everything in that rocking chair, but don't sit there. Just let that be the worry chair.
That's really dope. I think, that's super dope.
Like worry beads, you have worry beads. Just put it on the beads.
Put it on the beads,
but
we and it just circles back to the notion around paying attention to what you give attention to.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the balance of, well, how much are you thinking about something? How much energy are you giving towards a quote unquote negative
Whatever
thought,
a
word, just anything, something that it's like, well, we used to always have around the house growing up, and I don't do this now and I think about it, but you always had writings and sayings around the house and picture words and everything like that. And the one of the largest ones, it's tattooed on my bicep, the focus your energy on that which you want to create, not what you want to change. Yeah. It really speaks to this. And it's like, people we're so quick to, as individuals, to speak about what we don't like and how we want to change this. Oh, I don't like this, or I don't like this aspect of my life. I don't like this aspect of my world. And instead of literally just speaking from an affirmative place of what I do want and what I do want to create, and how I want it to look like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, when I was in college, one of my counselors, I remember it's this Friday, or it was Thursday, I think, and, we playing on Saturday. And we were laughing and talking about something, we're getting ready to leave, and the counselor said something, and I said, just trying to not fumble. I don't want to fumble this week. I think I fumbled. Maybe I fumbled the week before, and my counselor immediately said, why would you even say that? Right. And I was like, what? And they were like, why would you say no fumble? I said, I don't want to fumble. And they were like, no.
How about you want to score?
They were like, your brain doesn't recognize don't. It just hears fumble.
And that's so true.
So your brain doesn't recognize the negative aspects. It literally is only picking up fumble. So all you're focusing on is fumble.
Fumble, that's right.
So speak what you want. And it just spoke to very much. And he's like, what you really want is you want to hold on to the ball.
Yes.
You want to secure the ball. Mm-hmm. So that only speak to that. Don't think about what you don't. Don't focus on what you don't want to do. Yes. And
speaking of that, holding on to the
exactly.
ball,
like you want to secure the ball.
Become one with that
Become
ball.
one. Yeah. And that's a whole other thing. Yeah, that mentality. Yeah, you know me.
That ball. Ryan, it's time for you to start walking around with that ball.
Yeah, I want you to know that injury. That injury that I had a major injury my second year in the league, and my mother came over to the house one time. This is when I'm rehabbing and everything, and she looked at me kind of like, what are you doing? Like, you're looking at me and you're like, where's your ball? And at first I was like, what? And you're like, why are you not walking around with your football? And she's like, listen, what you're doing, the capacity of what you're trying to do and the rebuilding and everything like that, you got to become one with this ball. And that used to be a mentality that I had with basketball and with football when I was in high school and in college. And absolutely. I literally wanted to be symbiotic with whatever it was, with whatever I was doing. Yes. And I had with football, I didn't want my brain to go more than 10 minutes without thinking about football. Something just had to be literally, because I thought from a connection aspect, the longer I went without thinking about what I was doing, the further I was disconnected from it. And I didn't want to be that. I almost wanted to be football.
Yes.
Like with football. That. Like that would put me ideally that's where I wanted to be.
That's why I would tell those girls, no, you know what?
Yeah, you're there.
He's got a girlfriend. He's engaged. He's got a wife.
Yeah. Whether I have a girlfriend or not, the ball's my wife. Absolutely. And I think that would, in my mind, that put me in quote unquote like flow state. That's a term they use now. Like that would put me in there. And they say that, artists, and this is why it's hard for me to be like, become one with whatever you're doing.
I mean, when you're just so focused on something, even if it's not a conscious, deliberate.
No, absolutely. Something. It doesn't have to.
When you become focused on something, you really do take that on.
Yeah, but artists are like, I don't know. How'd you do that? Oh, I don't know. I just was so I just became.
Yes, there are times that I'm looking for something, and if it's a haphazard, let me just if I'm browsing around, it's like I'm probably not going to find it unless it's really sitting right there. But if I'm looking for something, I know the energy that I'm putting into looking, the universal, whatever it is, it's going to work with me.
Of course it's conspiring.
It's going to conspire with me because it sees, no, I'm serious about
do the work.
This.
Yeah.
And so it's going to work out because it has to, because of the focus, the level of focus, the attention. It's going to. And that whole mindset of focusing on what it is you want is so real as opposed to what you don't want or
or what you wanted to.
Who
Like
cares?
creation versus
that was
yeah.
then. This is now. Don't look
It's
over
all creation.
there.
Focus on
Just
the creation
keep moving.
aspect.
You don't know
yeah.
what's there.
Yeah.
So focus on that. It's
Focus on
absolutely. Oh my goodness, that's so real, so true.
Yeah, we
That's just this expression that your biography becomes your biology.
mm-hmm.
That whatever it is that's out there that you lock into or that you take in, when you ingest it, it becomes who you are.
Absolutely.
And so why waste any of that? If you have, and we all have, it's all about choices.
Yeah.
If you're choosing, if you
Yeah.
know you have a choice, why would you even think to choose something
that's why for us, like the fundamental aspect of like the foundation is so important, because now you see how so many people out here hurting, they're lost, or whatever it may be, like foundationally. And I think that even like to today's climate with everything going on, and I want to hear your perspective on that, but it's almost like, well, you can see why people are like, of course.
Yes.
You see why people are angry. Yes. You see why people are hurt. Yeah. Like you see what's been fed to them consciously, subconsciously,
mm-hmm.
what's the trauma, what they've experienced.
Mm-hmm. But you know what I see on Instagram, let's say, and so many people are giving their stories, and then you hear the comments, oh, thank you so much, I needed that. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Whoa, if that's your story and you know that's your story, move on. Yeah. Why now are you connecting with somebody else's story that's similar to that story and you're embracing that? Because, like, wait.
People don't have. But and I will say that we were fortunate in regards to that. We did have tribe. And we've always had that sense of like belong. We've always had a sense of like, oh, my people's. Mm-hmm. And so many people don't. And I think even in like growing up,
it's so hard for me to believe that you don't. You know what I feel like? No, you did. You just didn't even see it. You didn't open your eyes. You weren't paying attention.
Yeah, I know, but that's they weren't taught to pay attention.
But guess what? You were right in it.
Yeah,
you were
always,
right there.
Yeah.
You know, the religious people who go with that saying, where in the sand, I don't know, footprints or footsteps in the sand. Was like, where were you? You left me when I was struggling, and I only see 2 sets of prints, and you left me. I was like, oh, how about I was carrying you through that? Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's like, oh my goodness, you're carried through so much. So much is already handed to you. See that.
Yeah.
Recognize that. And that's all it is, a matter of recognize that. It's as easy. Maybe I don't want to say easy, but it's there for you to see, just as it's there for you to see, oh my God, you're connecting. I thought I was alone. I needed to. That's present.
That's the point, yeah.
But the other thing is present too.
Like, oh,
so
shit,
you're choosing to see this
and
comment on this. How about this? I see so many people going, this year I kicked ass. I'm so strong this year. I'm doing that. And at the end of the year, going to New Year, here's what they say. Oh God, I hope this year is better than last year. And I'm like, wait a minute. I remember last year you were saying how much you were doing and you were awesome. Now all of a sudden this year, last year kicked. Well, make up your mind. You just got to say anything.
That's literally.
What in the world?
That's it. That's
I
why
want
to
comment, and then I just delete what I'm saying.
That's people's level of perspective, and
wow,
them not being able to have awareness around their process. And it's like,
well, then I'm not going to agree. I'm not going to.
Then it wasn't as awesome.
Exactly. Anything that you ever post, because tomorrow, next week, next year, you're going to dog this. Wait, did you forget that? What in
people
the
forget,
world?
but that's it. They forget. It's like they forget who they are. It's like, no, look at what you've done. And this is why I speak to this, because I'm always use the process to benefit you in the next process, and use what you've done. And the same way we talked to Bill, I said, use everything that you're doing and what you've done in those moments where you forget and you're like, oh, this is rough.
Why am I doing
you know
this?
What? I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I know what I've done. And because the whole thing, I say it again, that perspective will reinforce your lifestyle. And then, of course, your lifestyle will reinforce your perspective.
And what I have to remember is, just like you said, that was handed to me.
Yes,
and
it
was my every breath.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that it's not everybody's breath. What do you mean? and it isn't.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so basic to me that it's like I don't even want to recognize it as being special. But at the same time,
special is relative.
I'm like,
it's very relative.
It's in your face that obviously, and then I was like, okay, you know what? That's why I just say to myself, because I don't want to be judgmental. I don't want to pass judgment. I don't want to get.
Yeah, no, you mitigate your own. You mitigate your own frustration.
So it's like, you know what? Let me just.
But we're able to recognize how fortunate and blessed and grateful we are, and because
grateful
I struggle with it. We have moments where we struggle with that aspect, but at the end of the day, I think that.
And I'm coming to terms in terms of politics. This.
Yeah, I want to talk with that.
I feel like I get it. Yeah. I really do.
Especially your perspective now, and it's funny.
I'm getting that people are in need.
You're a grandmother. It's interesting. I see you as a grandmother, very much so. And there's a positive thing in that aspect. And I say, I see you as a grandmother in regards to the role with the children. I see you as a grandmother in regards to your role, with social justice. And it's like you're very much grandmother-like. And it's like you don't have the same attachment to it. No. Who you were from a social justice aspect growing up is very different from how you are now with your perspective. Yeah.
I mean, when I think about, I'm going to say, I think I was in 5th grade when I remember a teacher talking about, where we came from, various students, and, I don't know, one of the black kids in the class, and there were only like 3 of us, and we all lived in the same neighborhood. Yeah. Somebody said, Africa, and slavery, and I'm like, well, I remember, there's no place called slavery, so that was like 5th grade. I remember the teacher. Mr. Delvecchio. And so I was like, wow, that was like my speaking up at that point. Okay. And then from then on, and I remember in high school setting up sit-ins and protests and taking teachers on and calling them to task where they would say, Patrice, listen, let's take this in the other room. And I'm like, why? You don't want everybody to hear? No. You were okay with saying things out loud and everybody to hear when you were putting somebody down. Yeah. So why can't you hear what I'm saying out loud? So I'm like, okay, so I've always been that person that would take on and, have a very diverse group of friends from all different backgrounds, all different cultures, dating everybody from all different cultures and backgrounds. I was like, wow, I'm doing that. And then as an adult with my kids, getting involved in things and being community activists and taking my kids to protests and marches and things. At some point, I was like, I have to slow down. It's too much. I had to stop listening to a particular radio station because everything was taking on issues. And I remember the slogan was, if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And I remember that. Yeah. I felt that way.
Yeah, you felt that way.
I was just enraged about everything. And I'm like, that's probably part of why I got cancer. No doubt. Taking other people's stuff in, being an empath. Yeah, okay, but I need to now. And I remember consciously saying, my son's going to play professional football. That's going to put us in a very different category in this societal place. How am I? You know what? I'm just going to take a back seat right now because I haven't been brought up to figure out how to do this, and I'm. It's happening. It's happening right now.
Yeah, you saw it real time
so
happening.
So I could take on Notre Dame and bring certain things to their attention and do that. And I really felt like professional football. I remember saying to you and Tuck, when I took you guys up to training camp in Albany.
Felt like a
and
plantation.
All of you were given housing and you were settling into your new housing, and I felt like, oh my God, this feels like a plantation, and you are all going into your slave quarters, and your masters are coming around making certain that everybody's where you are. And I remember saying to you guys, you're just on a different field. And feeling that way and driving home from Albany feeling like, and they're being paid what looks to be a lot based on what other slaves are getting, but based on what the masters are getting, they're just being given crumbs. But you know what? I just got to bow out. I've got to just let this is what they're doing. But I remember feeling so strong about it, going, where am I going to go with this?
There's like an acknowledgement and a feeling. It's like, what am I going to do with this?
I'm bowing out. I'm bowing out of everything because I can't be in any more conversations, because the minute I hit hard into one of my community activist segments of, everybody can go, oh, Pat, what about, well, Patrice, what about, you know,
well, you're participating. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like
and I'm
that.
like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Shit,
I'm not prepared
Yeah.
so, and I don't want,
I think
there can't be that, so I've got to just,
I dealt with that in moments.
I've got to just step away. And I knew that you were bright enough to, where you felt comfortable or where you
I could
felt
handle myself
necessary,
yeah.
you were going to step up, you were
Yeah.
going to address, you were going to say, but
there were definitely moments where I felt like I had to.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, there were, you pick and choose, you know, you pick and choose your battle, you pick and choose.
Yes, and I just said, okay, you know what, I'm going to then, and now I'm bowing out. So, you know, whenever I would see them, where have you been? Oh my God, you're just like, yeah, I need a break. It's like, so word wasn't out that my son played for the, it was like, nope, we're in it, we're there with you, we're present no matter what.
I love that because I actually, as much as people might look at that as, people look at pride as like an interesting, how it's expressed. And so many people were like, oh, your mother doesn't wear your jerseys, your mother doesn't, and I'm like, no, and they're like, yo, well, how does your mother even, and I'm like, my mother's literally the most supportive person in regards to what I do, but it's not about what I do. It's just the fact that I do.
Yeah.
So she literally, my entire family could care less that it specifically played football.
Yeah.
If I played badminton and was a phenomenon, they would be supporting what I did.
Woo-hoo!
Yes, it happens to be socially accepted and socially valued at such a high
I remember
level.
us saying, we don't really know how to do this thing. Because we're like, people would say, aren't you taking advantage? Could you? And I'm like, no.
What do you mean? I had that Nike contract, nobody's, all that money and all those... my per diem that they gave me, all that money, that account that I had, I get so mad. Nobody would spend it. Like all this money just getting wasted for all these things.
And then a box would come to the house, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, "Oh, Ryan sent me some stuff." I was like, "Well, damn, how many sneakers can I wear?" Jeez, okay, thanks.
You know, when somebody said that Dad was on the bus one time in the city, and someone said to Dad, and the dude didn't believe that his son played in the Packers. He was like, "Why are you riding the bus?" And he was like, "Because I want to ride the bus." And I think that...
They say, why are you still working? Your son, I was like, that's his job. That's not my job. I got my rent to pay. He doesn't have his. I got my mortgage. You know, whatever.
Yeah, it's... You know, but it's funny, making the choices that I made and in what I did and just being the school from across the board. I will say that having my family be who they were and really honoring who they were helped. Yes. In those moments where I felt like I got to do, you know what I mean? Where I felt like, you know, I might have been biting my tongue or like having to turn the other cheek to the situation that I knew was like this, you know. So having Kian and having my brother be so on the other side of the spectrum in what I did, it helped. It really, people was like, yo, how you, like, your brother's almost like destroy everything.
Yes.
And he speaks to such a place that it's really like he could mess up a lot for which, and I said, no, I need it. Yeah. Because I understand the value I understand the value in what he brings, and he's right. Yes. So it doesn't mean that I'm stagnant in what I'm doing, and yes, I'm going to continue to, and I love football. Yeah. I love the game of football. I don't love the NFL. I don't love the bureaucratic aspect. I don't love the NCAA. No, but I love the game of football, and I think that, you know, for me, I've always been a type that I'm not going to let someone or something stop me from doing what I recognize and am honest about what I love. Yes. You know, I love to paint. Yeah. If I hated these paint companies, like who made these different colors, then I'd have to just find color. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, of course, I loved football to enough that I wanted, and my competition, I loved competition. I loved the desire and drive that it gave me to continue to, and I wanted to be able to perform against the best. And we, you know, and the only way for me to do that was in the framing of playing NFL. But most guys, they'll acknowledge it's not, they've always loved football. Yeah. They get tired of dealing with the other shit that comes along with that takes away from me loving football. Yeah. And no, I really I understand all of that in the notion of
I do remember, and I remember saying to somebody, okay, those individuals that do know, you know, I remember going to Green Bay and realizing, okay, you know what? And I didn't know it would be immediate until I was in, like, we would go to Walmart. Every time we came, we were running to Walmart.
Yeah.
We didn't have a Walmart, and it was like, oh, I could buy some cheap stuff, whatever, because we always needed extra socks, extra stuff, because we were going to be cold.
Yeah.
More cold this weekend than we were last weekend that we were here. And one of those times, I heard somebody go, that's Ryan, that's Grant. And I'm like, did somebody call my name? And they were like, and I heard them, they were saying a little bit loud, they were like, that's Ryan Grant's mother. And I was like, it's Ryan Grant's mother? What the heck? And I was like, really? So somebody kind of came up, kind of sort of, and they're like, are you Mrs. Grant? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, are you Ryan Grant's mother? And I'm like, yes. I was like, okay. I guess this is big time.
In that market, yeah.
I am, wow, all righty. Who knew? I said, but I'm in Walmart, we're buying stuff in Walmart. I'm like, oh, is that a good look for Ryan? Because the word is like, oh, Ryan's family's in Walmart. I was like, I don't know. But I remember thinking, okay, so if that's the case, I can't just, whatever. So I've got to pay attention to even what I
something
have
else.
to always
so
at least
now there's
look
even a little more
presentable, because I don't want it to reflect on, oh my God, I saw Ryan must not be taking care of his family. Ryan must because his family looked like they would. So I'm like, okay, so I've got to now focus on, when I leave the house, I've got to look at least a certain way, because it's going to, if it gets back, it's a reflection. Who knows? This is I'm not in touch with that kind of world or those things.
Even
but
though
this is
when I was in Green Bay, I was wearing sweatsuits every day.
You could do whatever you wanted to do, but I felt like, as the mother, I'm like, oh my God, I really have to pay attention to. I got to buy like a decent bag to carry with me, and I got to,
oh man, the things
like,
that become,
that we're forced to pay
like
attention
societal,
to. I'm like, I don't.
Societal quote unquote pressures and stuff like that, and you can see like having
and saying it to them or to others, it's like,
all,
okay, if we're
funny.
traveling,
and
this
that's
is
why
what
it's interesting, because with that perspective, that broadened your awareness, because now it almost made you be like, wow, think about people who their entire life
every day
is that every day they
have
have to make sure they are on and sharp and on point.
So you know what, if I stay in my house every day,
there's something to that, but you know what I mean, you recognize damn, so it's almost like, you know what, it's not my thing, but I see how hard we're working in that field, in that area, in that space to have to do that, because there's a level of energy and there's a level of focus that all that takes. That you're like,
well, I'll tell you what though. I'll tell you that Instagram is giving me a sense that how many people want
the desire of that.
Whoa. Like, so you're doing this deliberately. You want that level of. So you cannot ever post anything about a struggle or this or that, because you have provided, you've set this up for yourself deliberately. So, okay, hey, even if you're posting it, it means that you're putting yourself once again out there. You don't post, you don't know, you just show up on set, do your job, and it's all good. There's going to come a time when the individual that does that will be, we don't even know about them, and we don't even see them. Of course,
it's just going to circle back around, Like, remember when years ago when Google first started, it was like, if you have someone on the internet, it's not a good thing.
If what?
Like when Google first started in social media. I'm just saying, when the internet first came about, when it first, you weren't necessarily like on it like that, but the notion of being on the internet wasn't considered a good thing.
Oh, okay.
But now, if you have no trace on the internet, it's like
right.
you're
How am I going to know about you?
You're a nobody.
Right, exactly.
So if you have no footprint on the internet, that's not a good thing.
Right.
And for now, it's so necessary. Like you have to.
Yeah, so many people who know me have said, you should have a site.
It's just a very
you should be on Instagram. Your home should be. Your studio should be. Just the things that you say. You should have your own. You should. And I'm like, what? I remember Am Hollis was like, you should do this. You could do this. Come on. And I'm like, Am, unless you do it all, it is not happening. I am just not there. And I do know it would be interesting. I do know that if
every once in a while you have that curious, like, I wonder, like that wonder.
And just.
But think about it. You have that wonder
every now and then. I go, there's no doubt that it would definitely have following. But am I going to? No, not even a little bit. It's like
I think
doing
there's
the
with
artwork
that
and
with an acknowledgement. It's like there's an empowerment. So you don't stay in those spaces of like, oh, how come I don't have this, or how come
Absolutely.
It's like no, you
I
take
know
responsibility.
exactly
You know why.
Listen, all those people that come to my art studio every open house and say, "Contact me. Oh, I'd love to. Oh, I had."
And you don't reach out to any
and
of
I
them.
go, "Oh, okay."
No.
Yeah, right. They leave their cards. It's like, "Oh, wow, okay."
What?
Oh, wow. That wasn't. I guess I wasn't that artist that.
With that.
Envisioned.
What? In regard, so I want you to speak to, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but I do want you, because I know, speaking to the younger generations that are quote unquote in the fight right now with everything going on in the social climate, from politically, social injustice, personally, the culture, from a support aspect, knowing what they're going through, knowing that their perspective and where they're, the feeling that they have, speak to that. Like, what do you give them from a support aspect? And then in the same breath, being the space you're in now and having another vantage point and a sense of wisdom in that realm, because they're not doing anything new. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness!
What can you give them? What can you actually give from both ends of the spectrum?
Well, just recognizing that there's always going to be, and cross-culturals around the world, there's always going to be, and young people are always going to be with their eyes open, seeing things that they'll and they're going to challenge it, whether it's in the home with their parents doing something, their grandparents doing something, they're going, what? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. So it's going to happen on a grander scale when you're out in society and you're out in the streets and you're going to see it. And you know what? That's what school is about. College is about, just stepping away from your familiar, taking in a breath, being around peers, and then sitting around and talking about things that don't make sense to you. And you're able to just breathe without your parents telling you how to breathe and what to breathe. You're able to just do that. Take advantage of that. I think everybody should go away in those early years, whether it's travel.
Yeah, whether it's college, not necessarily just college. Yeah.
Whatever it is, get away from what you grew up, because you were spoon-fed. Up to that point, you've been spoon-fed everything. Your thoughts.
Yeah.
Now you step away, recognize what you were spoon-fed and kind of put it over there, and now decide, now what do you want to eat? Maybe it's you want to become vegan, you want to give up dairy.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, find yours. Find what interests you. Maybe the music that you were always hearing in the house isn't the music that you might find a new music that you're loving.
Yeah.
Social events and social challenges that are going on, that are taking place, look at them and decide, do you want to be a part of that? Does it mean that much to you? Politics is a whole nother world, and some people are drawn to it.
Yeah.
The same way some people are drawn to the law, some people are drawn into medicine, some people are drawn into the arts, whether it's music or in the studio to create paintings, sculptures, spoken word, writing your words down, writing novels. Find you. And then you will decide how you're going to operate in your world.
Yeah.
I just feel like everybody needs to be given an opportunity to give themselves permission. Give yourself permission, regardless of what your parents said. Give yourself permission to just, take in what feels good to you and what's comforting to you. And comforting doesn't always mean that it's warm and fuzzy.
No, absolutely not.
You might be comfortable taking on a particular challenge.
It doesn't even
and
mean
you know
that it's
what?
right.
It might change. And that whole thing about, even that notion of, you lied. When people say, they're such a liar. That term is like, what is that about? We're changing. So whatever you believed in, whatever you said from your heart at one point, the more you're exposed to, you grow and you go, that doesn't fit anymore. I don't even think that way anymore. So then you change your mind. And that goes into relationships as well. You love somebody, you said I do because you can't say forever because you don't know who you're going to be. 10 years from now, 5 years from now, if you've been exposed to things and you're in a whole new world, whole new setting, you're meeting new people in new conversations, your whole perspective changes. And next thing you know, what you thought doesn't fit anymore. It is okay. But I don't think that you just, throw the towel in and be rude about it and be disregarding.
Yeah.
And that's not our humanity.
Yeah.
I think our humanity has to always kick in, and how we handle certain situations, even if we're changing up. Your humanity, your compassion for others, just that.
Because you want that compassion for yourself in regards to
Yes. I see many people. There was some recent story where it's going around where somebody shared something, and then the person they shared it with didn't want to share it with them anymore, so they took back. And I'm like, but your sharing was who you are. You can continue to share. Just because that person doesn't share, okay, they don't share. But it doesn't mean you're not going to share. You could even still share with that same person.
Yeah. It's like only holding the door for people who
who are going to say thank you. What? Yeah, no. I hold the door. It doesn't matter whether you say thank you or not. I'm still going to hold the door. Yeah. I'm still going to say.
It feeds you. It's not about
Exactly.
It feeds your spirit.
Make certain that I think that's what young people need to hear. And it's not do you. It's not from that perspective.
Yeah.
It's really finding out the essence of who you are. And I think even the term essence is lovely. Yeah. There's grace.
Yeah.
I love that word, grace. I think there's grace to compassion and essence. And so do things with that.
Yeah.
Not, vindictive or, I don't know. I don't want to get caught up in words.
Is there something with us, me and bro, that you look at us, and I know there's so much that you're excited and you do, and you just really that you enjoy watching us, and you know, almost like a friend. You share, that you say, oh, I wish you guys would continue to work on, or and I can think of one right away, but I want to hear it because I know we're hard sometimes, and it hasn't come across.
I think that and that's yours. It's attached to stuff. With Kian, it's like, Kian, I don't want to play tennis with you because you are not even. Again, coming back to, everybody is a winner, and I want everybody to feel good. I'm saying I don't want to play tennis with him because he's hitting the ball so hard. There's no way I'm ever going to get a chance to volley it back. So you know what? I'm just going to stand here with my racket and watch you hit the balls hard to me. Yeah. I don't want to play with you like that. There are times in conversations that I hear the two of you hitting hard, and I'm like, well, stop. That conversation that people are trying to get a be in on, and next thing you know, it's like, well, you two are just talking to each other, and nobody else can say anything because whatever I say or whatever somebody says, you're shooting down. It's like, again, you recognize perspective, so allow somebody else's perspective to kick in, and even if it's not your perspective, and you can go, okay.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm constantly. It is something that's we are hard, and our compassion, empathetic, and
at the same time, you guys are so loving, so loving.
There are moments where it's like,
but it's like loving, but that sword that you carry is so sharp. If I trip over it,
and that's it. It's like the sword that sometimes the sword we bring out is
wow.
It is.
Yeah. It's like, oh my goodness, come on now. Come on.
We can wrap up because this has been, this is the best. And I told you this is super casual. Yeah, see, you don't even know.
But here's the thing. Every now and then I think, okay, so I was just rambling on, and I don't know, you asked me a question. I don't remember the question. I don't even know if I answered the question because I was just.
But that's it. That's what you mean. I get a lot of that too. So
it's
when
all
this
good.
Is
going to be editing.
This was awesome.
When you edit it,
some of it will be edited, but guess
it'll be
what?
10 minutes worth of.
No, but once again, man, thanks, Mom. I think hopefully the audience knows this is why I am who I am now. So now you know the quirkiness, the weirdness. We didn't talk too much, about my work ethic and my ability to focus and my laser focus definitely comes from my dad aspect. So when I do talk with him, I will, yes, and I was allowed to be that. And I think that we are who we are as brothers and as individuals because we were supported in that, in who we were, and our spirit was supported, and our thoughts were valid. Yes,
was supported by the group. Exactly. So even though it was an individual interest, you had everyone involved,
on board. So. Grandparents, aunts, uncles. There was just there were so many parents, many people involved. And it was validated, it was supported, embraced. Yeah. And so we walked. Yeah, you said Dad used to feed me confidence with my baby food. It was walked from a space, and and even in our childhoods, we have two different experiences in that. But it was allowed to do that. So in our sibling, our brotherhood, it didn't, as and, you know, the little instances might feel like, oh, he was supported a little bit more, vice versa, but also for the most part we were in it together, recognizing each other's differences. You know what I mean? It was like very much you recognize it, like, no, I respect that, and I see the value in it, because we were having conversations around there's value in it all. There's value in being who you are. You know what I mean? Not about what. It's about being, to recognize who you are.
Yeah, I remember, I don't know if you knew this, but just in terms of my upbringing with all my cousins on the regular, when they lived upstate, we would go regularly, my mother visiting her sister with her, 5 kids at the time, and then the other sister with her kids. We were just always a group of kids with, my grandmother would just sit back and watch us. And then when you were playing football, and Aunt Bonnie, we would go visit my, Aunt Bonnie, mom's sister. I think she had moved to North Carolina at that point, and she was saying, "Oh yeah, and Ryan," and my aunt was, kind of cool about it, and she was like, "Oh, Pat, you're so lucky." Oh, and she would say, "Oh, your grandson did so well." Oh, yada yada. Oh, it was like, my grandson, he's ours. He's part of this. You need to recognize that and buy into that, play into it, because come on, have a good time with this. She's, I saw Ryan, I'm so proud of you. Pat, Mama was like, no, you feel it. She goes, you crocheted and things for Ryan. You loved Ryan. Ryan, knew you. Ryan would run to you and hug you. Come on, this is Ryan. And at some point, she heard somebody at one of her senior centers talking about your game and you, and she said, "Oh yeah, that's my sister's, that's my nephew, that's my sister's grandson." She said, she called my mother to say, "Oh my God, Pat, once they found out that Ryan was my nephew, wow, Pat, my whole world's changed." And she was like, "I told you, this is really fun." So anytime somebody would mention something, then it became a matter of, this is part of our tribe. This is a tribal member that he's left the tribe for a minute to do that out there off the reservation, but he's still part of ours. And when I think of that, I just lost my train of thought, because it was a matter of, no, this is who we are.
This
is who we are. And then, I know what I was going to say. Anytime anybody said, "So what was that like?" It's like, we would tell Ryan all the time, straight through, from Pee-wee straight through. What a fun ride. What a fun ride we had. Ryan provided us with a ride that it was so fun. And so thank you for that, because
even in the
it
ups
was
and
an
downs.
Experience. All of it. Absolutely.
That's it.
All of it.
Just
the
like a ride, like a roller coaster.
The heartache was like, whoa, tremendous. And then at the same time, the highs were like, we were at that crest where we were like, how fun is this? And we just enjoyed the ride. And we knew at any given point when you said, "I want to get off this ride," we were like, "Okay, ride's over, get off." It wasn't going to be, but no, none of us felt that way. And I remember your uncle saying, every season, the minute, if Ryan says after any game, "Okay, I don't want to do this anymore," whew, I'm good. He said, "Ryan, can't step off of this soon enough for me." And we were enjoying every minute of it at the same time. So thank you very much for that. And, I would say to people, both of my sons are entertainers. One's in field entertaining and one is on a stage entertaining. And I'm having the best time both. I'm loving it. I'm loving that, you go to all of his game, all of his shows, and I'm like, I go to Green Bay. I go travel around this country to see one. Why wouldn't I drive my car
to go see?
To support this one? And it's fun. I'm loving it. I have favorites. Of course I'm going to do this. Both of you have provided me with, you're definitely not regular. You're definitely not ordinary. And so my prayers have been answered. I'm good. I'm good. And the same thing goes
I gave you 2 little
Journey.
girls. I gave you 2 little
and the girls. Journey and Tyler. I'm telling you, really.
You're good.
It's like life is good. Life is good.
Life is good, Mom. Thank you so much. You've been my number one supporter, my number one fan, literally my best friend, my assistant. You've done so much. You've been everything for me, and
It's been fun.
I'm glad that you've
None
enjoyed
of
the
it's been
experience.
stressful.
I'm
None
glad
of
you've
it has
enjoyed
been
the experience.
stressful.
So thank you, and hopefully everybody enjoyed this. And there you go. You've heard my mom's profits in her
I was
process.
never close enough to this. Maybe you didn't hear anything I said.
We should be able to pick you up. These
Sometimes
mics are good enough that we think we'll be able to pick you up. See, no. We think you'll be good. But now you've heard my mother, Patrice Gallwey Grant's Profits in Process. Thank you, Mom.
Bye.
All right.